guys and gals? Me, Mutahar, and boy oh boy, do I have some severe anxiety. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever do some doom scrolling, I know I do from time to time. The older I get, the wilder things become. Now, it's no shock. The 2020s have been probably one of the wildest decades ever. I have a feeling they're going to talk about this till in 2060, 2070, the bad decade. The decade where everything got kicked around. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 2023 just started. February hasn't come to an end. And I swear to God, if I keep seeing World War III trend every day, I'm going to start crying myself every night to sleep. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of stuff to cover over, but I'm going to start off with the goofy stuff first, okay? Before we pile on to the serious things. Now, if you've been following, you've probably understood that 2 asteroids the size of 22 penguins are passing Earth. It's like they never end. These articles never stop. Now, of course, I made a video a while back where I talked about, the asteroid the size of a grand piano is about to hit Earth. Now, if you know something about an atmosphere, an asteroid the size of 22 penguins, okay, if you know what a penguin looks like, they ain't that big, probably going to burn up in the atmosphere before it becomes the size of my goddamn toenail. Now, of course, there's a pretty big difference between asteroid the size of 22 penguins and asteroid the size of Texas is about to hit. To understand, if an asteroid the size of the state of Texas is going to hit us, we're all pretty much dead, okay? That's about that. I believe that's actually larger than the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Yes, when an asteroid that large collides with Earth, it pretty much causes the impact of several hundred nuclear bombs. But of course, before we get into nukes, all right, let's talk about what happened. So NASA apparently confirmed that we actually did have a 1,000-pound meteor now becoming a meteorite hitting Earth, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, believe it or not, there's actually footage of this scenario. Let's actually watch it. This actually hit in South Texas around McAllen. Look at this shit, dude. So they're just minding their own business and boom! Birds are flying around. That one chicken finally evolved. It understood that shit was getting fucked up. Look real carefully at the chicken. Boom! Full attentive. It's already done. You could literally hear the impact right there. Apparently, this is like a photo of what is apparently one of the pieces of that 1,000-pound of meteor hitting Earth. Now, of course, atmosphere came in and kind of burned it away, made sure that it was little tiny pieces of rocks that were going to be collected by the Smithsonian. NASA actually estimated, no joke, it had the power of about 8 tons of TNT explosive. No joke, all right? This is getting bad. Remember, we live in space, right? We're just a little tiny pebble flying through the infinite vastness of space. You know, at any moment, we could be in a collision course with another planet, another meteoroid. You know it, okay? Literally, every day you're alive is another day that luck has blessed you. In the goddamn universe. We could be wiped out like the dinosaurs. Who knows, ladies and gentlemen? But thankfully, because of NASA and like a billion other space agencies, we at least know that if we're gonna die, we're gonna die months in advance, all right? We're gonna know that something's about to hit us. We ain't like those dinosaurs. They didn't know shit until like 0 hour, okay? Which I would argue is a much more peaceful way to go. Ignorance is bliss. When you don't have ignorance, you're doom scrolling like all of us. Now, of course, shit's been really getting wild lately, especially if you're living on the East Coast like me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at this image right over here, you're going to be like, dang, what is that? Is like the world coming to an end? Mood, are these the end times? No, ladies and gentlemen, this is just Ohio, which might as well be considered Florida without the good weather. Now, of course, this comes from the Ohio train derailment. Now, why am I talking about the train derailment? Well, because in Canada, we're also talking about it just a little bit too. Now, if you look very carefully, this cloud over here, ladies and gentlemen, above Lake Erie, one of the Great Lakes, if you will, is actually the byproduct of this massive Ohio train derailment, which has actually been spitting up some of the most dangerous chemicals known to man. Now, what chemical in particular? Vinyl chloride. Now, of course, let me tell you how dangerous it is. We're going to go to cancer.gov, all right? An official website of the United States government. Vinyl chloride is a colorless gas that burns easily. So even if you don't like some ordinary gamers or me, at least you learn something every time you click on a video. It does not occur naturally. We make it. This is ours. Vinyl chloride is used primarily to make polyvinyl chloride, a hard plastic resin used to make a variety of plastic products, including pipes, wires, and cable coatings. PVC is not a known or suspected carcinogen. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, people are exposed because workers at facilities where it's actually produced or basically used, exposed primarily through inhalation, the general population may be exposed by inhaling contaminated air. Yeah, like in this case. In the environment, the highest levels of vinyl chloride are found in air around factories. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, if a water supply is contaminated, vinyl chloride can enter household air when the water is used for showering, cooking, or laundry. Now, of course, what's happening over here is this has been burning, at least now as far as we've been told, in a controlled manner, just effectively until it finally snuffs itself out. Now, that doesn't stop anybody from looking at that and going, damn, this must really be ruining the environment around us. Which it unfortunately has, because it seems like thousands of dead animals and fish have been spotted in local streams, various waterways, all because of these massive contaminants basically polluting the air. So it's to the point where the Environmental Protection Agency, with their last update being on the 19th, have said the EPA continues real-time air monitoring and collecting air samples. Air monitoring and sampling will continue until removal of highly contaminated soil. So the EPA basically continues to assist indoor air screenings in homes. To date, 533 homes have been screened with no exceedances for residential air quality standards. Yeah, again, I'm sure the government is saying one thing, but when I'm seeing dead animals and shit like that, I'm looking at it from a whole different perspective. I believe there was even like a reporter that decided to go into this and report on it, but they were arrested because of like trespassing. I'm gonna have to look a little bit into that, but it's been a wild situation so far. And it's not the only thing going wrong over there in Ohio either. There's been other fires that have been kicking off, unfortunately, and there's been other like chemical like derailments happening in other parts of the country too. So it really has been a bad day for everyone involved, and unfortunately this is so massive that people who are living here had to actually be evacuated. I believe some of them are back now, even though in my opinion they probably shouldn't be. And because I'm looking at a cloud like this, I even had to go and make sure this was fact-checked, and there were tons of sites telling you, yeah, this was actually true. This came literally out of Reddit, where like literally shit. It was actually one of the most top posts for a while, and it should be. Because this is a pretty scary scenario. It's almost like a portal to hell opened up. And it really is like that in that entire situation. And unfortunately, because it's happening in Ohio, which is incredibly close to me, there are people over here who are worried if it shows up in Canada in some capacity. Honestly, I hope the best for these people, but it's just another thing that makes me wonder how this stuff tends to happen. There's a whole lot of blame to be thrown around, and unfortunately, we're not going to go too far into it. I just wanted to look at this because, honestly, it's been in my feed for, like, days. I've been seeing it in the news. I've literally had to talk to family members about it. I have family members who live in that part, not exactly there in Ohio, but they're a lot closer to the epicenter than I am. Now, of course, this last moment brings us into war, ladies and gentlemen, and war never changes, because really, we don't have a say in it, but it's the thing that freaks me out the most. Now, I remember like a year ago when I showed you guys like the emergency alert stuff, where literally where there are entire channels on YouTube that make fake emergency alert scenarios. It is some of the most anxiety-driving shit you will ever see. Probably the best forms of horror you will ever watch. You know, a lot of people look at analog horror and they freak themselves out, but I'm actually somebody that gets more scared by what human beings come up with. And these guys have come up with like emergency alert scenarios. One from a year ago by a channel I love known as Harvester actually made one about nuclear Armageddon. Like what happens when countries go at it and blow each other up. The things about nukes is if one country fires them, because of something known as mutually assured destruction, there's no real doubt that everyone's just going to let go of their payloads. And we have so many nuclear bombs in the world, believe it or not, we could blow the world up several times over. But to show you the real horror and fear, this is just like 1 minute out of a 30-minute production made by Harvester that shows you just what you're about to expect when the bombs finally drop and the government completely collapses.
我们建议所有幸存者寻找农村地区，城市已经崩溃，您将找不到任何用处。寻找一个小的农村地区，并建立一个庇护所，让您可以过上可持续的生活。建议您种庄稼来维持您和您的家人的生活。中国大陆混乱不堪，人民一无所知，不知道发生了什么事。正常社会正处于崩溃的边缘，估计已经发射了1200枚弹头。烟雾几乎肯定会造成核冬天。
Now that's some really chilling stuff for a lot of people to process. Imagine after the whole war happens and bombs fly off, this is the last broadcast people hear before they're told that one of the biggest governments in the world effectively collapsed and they're pretty much left to fend for themselves. I think that's the real freaky stuff for me. And why are we talking about it? Because, ladies and gentlemen, North Korea is back at it again. Now, to understand, North Korea has been building nuclear arsenals and toying around with the world and trying to scare us since 2006. But the problem is, even if you try to scare us since 2006, the technology unfortunately does get better. It got better literally even just a few years ago when you had probably one of the scariest things to ever be sent out to anybody's cell phone. Back in January 2018, they literally had, if you lived in Hawaii, you probably ended up receiving a message where it said, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Yeah, honestly, if somebody had read this in Hawaii, they have a complete God-given right to piss and shit themselves in absolute fear. But of course, this wasn't real. This was a false missile alert. I know. It literally sparked up people it literally sparked up the state going hey, maybe we should have a few extra checks to make sure this is sent out when it needs to be sent out. Not in a fake scenario. So of course, we're mentioning this because North Korea recently fired 2 more nuclear missiles in retaliation to what appears to be more sort of flexing by the US and South Korea on the borders, okay? So every time the United States flexes its muscle, North Korea decides to not feed its people and build nuclear weapons just to show their force. Now this video is wild. This is literally just off of the coast of Japan, and if you look into the skies, something's about to get a little spooky. So if you play the video over here, bam, you see that? That's not a shooting star. That's not the meteor the size of 22 penguins. That is apparently a test of the Hwasong 15 intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, I'm going to just tell you right now, there's probably somebody out here in Japan. Just imagine for a minute. You're out here, you're probably having your after-work cigarette looking out into the skies, and you see this shit. Yeah, again, they have the complete God-given right to piss and crap themselves in absolute fear. I know the world likes to laugh at North Korea haha, they'll never get to what they want, but given the fact that North Korea keeps putting in dictators that are absolutely scarier than the ones that have come before it is not a laughing matter. No joke, Kim Jong-un's sister has now apparently come up into prominence, and she's even more batshit crazy than the last guy that came in. This is somebody that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They're going absolutely nutter butters if they're trying to scare the entire world into saying they're going to turn the Pacific Ocean into an entire firing range, quote unquote. It is a wild world indeed. And when it comes to nuclear weapons, honestly, given what I talked about with mutually assured destruction, ever since for 2 years, I've literally been looking at nuke maps and trying to understand just how bad things can be. The reality with nukes is no matter what, you'll never be able to escape it. So honestly, all you can do is become a prepper or get the front row seat to the goddamn center point and just see everything going out in style. Now, to be honest, given that they're testing it around Japan, I could only imagine if that same missile went towards the state of California, North Korea would be a goddamn footnote in history by the sunrise. So honestly, given the fact that, my anxiety is going through the roof, looking at train derailments and toxic clouds of absolutely cancerous materials. You got meteors the size of penguins, Texas, and 1,000-pound meteorites shocking the Earth to its core. And then well, not to the core, but to the goddamn mantle at least. And then you've got North Korea trying to flex its muscle when eventually it can seriously cause some damage. And I really wish the world governments weren't so worried about blowing each other up and probably focused more on peace. Look, ladies, at the end of the day, no matter matter how far my anxiety goes through the roof, I'm still happy that we got to have the time we have together. And look, at the end of the day, as my anxiety goes through the roof, I also have to calm myself down and realize I have no say in any of this, okay? At the end of the day, the world is run by a bunch of old, egotistical motherfuckers. And if they want the world to be gone, they want the world to be gone. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna have the best time. And I urge you all to enjoy life to its fullest. Because who knows, man? Human beings are dumb individuals. Literally 2 weeks ago, we were talking about aliens taking us over. But at this point, I think the aliens are doing a fine job staying back and watching the world burn as human beings lead ourselves out to the absolute end. But ladies and gentlemen, enjoy yourself. Every day is a blessing. Every day you're alive, every day you get to see the sun is just another day where the world didn't absolutely blow itself up. Take pride, be happy, live life to the fullest, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting me and my channel. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I got a full diaper, and I need a goddamn change. I am